Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Three Wide. I'm your host Radney Crawford. Today we got a very special episode for you as I have my first guest ever. Joining me is the full-time Xfinity Series driver for SS Greenlight Racing in the 14 Trophy Tractor Hire Heroes USA Chevrolet, Garrett Smithley. Garrett, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. Happy to be here and happy to be your first guest.
Hey, I'm glad to have you on. I'm pretty excited about this, and thank you for taking the time to join me.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, starting things off, want to dive right in. You're starting full time this year with SS Greenlight Racing. You previously ran part time for this team back in 2020, ran 5 races for them. You had a couple good runs to end that run at Kentucky and Daytona with some top 20s and top 10s. So you're no stranger to this organization. How has that been with the transition of now coming back as a full time driver?
Yeah, I haven't been full time in any series since 2019 with JD Motorsports. So it's definitely been, definitely a transition. But it's been good. I am fortunate that I have raced for this team, like you said. I've worked with Bobby Daughter before, worked with my crew chief Jason Miller before, and we've always had success together. So always been, really happy racing for him and yeah, it's been great so far. And I mean, certainly as a driver, anytime you get a chance to go full time, that's always been the goal. So definitely happy that that all came together.
Good. I'm glad to see you back in full time competition. Um, we're only 6 races into the season, so it may be tough to know fully what you have when it comes to the track. But how do you feel about where this team is compared to the rest of the field on the track?
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I mean, the Xfinity series is super tough. The competition's probably been the toughest it's been maybe ever in the series, just from start to finish. There's a lot of support. There's a lot of really well funded race teams, and I mean, on paper, looking at our budget, I mean, we're one of the last teams on the grid. So it's definitely been a challenge. With that said, we have a good group together. We've got good support, we've got good sponsors, and we're just trying to work every day, every weekend to improve what we have. So, um, you know, as a competitor, you always want to do better. You always want to improve. You're never totally happy unless you're in victory lane. So that's what we're striving to do. We have a couple opportunities here at Daytona and Talladega to make that happen, and some other places on strategy, things like that. We know that we're not quite there on the other tracks yet, but we're working night and day to make that happen and to get the right support so we can make that happen. So it's definitely an uphill battle, but we're up for it, and we're definitely gonna fight till we can't.
Hey, that's all you could do, and you had a good run going at Daytona, definitely running at the top 10 at one point. So the, that's definitely a favorite on the schedule. I know for you because that does give an even playing field. Correct?
Absolutely. No, it's just a huge opportunity for us. And unfortunately, we couldn't keep our qualifying lap, but we were able to qualify and run a lap before the rain came and cancel qualifying. And had we, and I know it's year to year, it's different, but had that lap stood last year, we would have qualified fourth for Daytona. So
Wow.
it's just a testament to our guys and working hard. Fortunately, we had the support to have an A motor for that race. A lot of people don't realize the hierarchy with motors and things like that. So there's an A, a B, a C motor program, and right now, with the exception of Talladega and Daytona, we're on a B motor program. It's there are motors that we own, so we are down a little bit of horsepower from where we could be. So that's what we're working every day for more sponsorship, so we have that budget, and hopefully we can make that happen. The goal is to have A motors all year next year.
Hopefully, y'all can get to that level. A lot of things can change with super speedway races, and y'all have had some solid runs on mile and a halfs as well. But earlier this year, when it came to Circuit of the Americas, you made the decision to kind of take a step out of the seat, and Carson Hocevar goes in, and you said because road courses aren't your strongest suit, and this was the best thing for the team to try and get them a good solid run. So we've seen drivers have to step out before with health reasons, family emergencies, numerous things, but it's rare you see a driver make the decision to, this isn't my best spot. I need to do what's best for the team. How difficult was it to come to that decision? And then going forward, how can you, I guess, get better at the road courses so you can step in and perform at a top level?
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. It's one of the hardest things that you do as a driver. I had long conversations with Bobby and Jason and my management team and Beth and Randy Knighton, who are our strategic partner this year that's kind of making all this happen funding wise. So, we had a lot of conversations, and I just felt like where I was as a driver on a road course, I feel like that once I get in that race, I can manage the race, and I've had good finishes at road courses, and I'm decent at them. But knowing that there was going to be a full field, and cars that were going to be going home, we had to get that car into the show, and I just didn't feel confident not having an A motor, um, having never. I mean, nobody ran that certain configuration at Coda,
Right.
but I'm not, especially on road courses. I struggle to extract raw speed out of the car. So I know my strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of people said, "Man, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't talk bad about yourself, this and that." But I'm also a realistic person, and I know where my strengths and weaknesses are. I'm a very good race car driver.
Right.
I'm not denying that whatsoever. I just know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So I felt like that was our best opportunity to make the show. Carson is an incredible talent and is very good on road courses. He's raced for SS Greenlight before, actually made his debut in the Xfinity series with them, and I think qualified 14th. So he took our car and ended up qualifying. I think it was 24th. Got in the show. Unfortunately, the race didn't go the way we wanted it to. He got wrecked and couldn't continue. So, you know, I still think that we made the right decision, even though what happened did happen, because he did end up making the show. But it's racing. You never know. He could have gone in there, got stage points, and finished 10th. I mean, you never know. But it was, like I said, it was a difficult conversation, difficult decision to make. But I felt that was the best for longevity of our team and our sponsors.
Well, that's a big thing is to look at it long term, and like I said, that was a big part in it, and that's pretty commendable because I know drivers y'all do not want to step out of that car. So for you to make that decision and try and help the team in the long run and ultimately help yourself, that's the tough decision to make. But ultimately, you made it, and like I said, that's commendable. In the move to SS Greenlight Racing, you did bring on a new sponsor in Hire Heroes USA. And from what I found, they're new to NASCAR, at least when it comes to partnering with the driver. They're going to be a primary sponsor for multiple races, and you have a real connection with them. So I really wanted to give you the floor to explain what is it Hire Heroes does, their mission, and what this partnership means to you.
Yeah, so I talked to Hire Heroes years ago when I was racing for Rickware Racing. We had a program called the Military Salutes Program with one of their sponsors. And basically, we went around with a show car to, I think over the course of 2 years, we did 60 plus military base visits. And we did autograph sessions. The families came out, all the service members came out, and then we got a tour of the base. And while we were doing that, we found that there was um, a difficulty with service members transitioning out of the military and into the private sector, getting quote unquote normal jobs. So we did some research and we found Hire Heroes USA, and that's exactly what they do. They have a program, they have job fairs, they help military service members and their families basically get jobs and help them take the skills that they have in the military and apply them to the private sector. It doesn't always translate, and it doesn't always that transition doesn't always go smoothly. So they really focus on training. They focus on interview skills, resume building skills, and basically teaching them how to apply all of their amazing talents and skills that they've learned in the military and take that to a job. And vice versa. They work with employers to help them know how to hire military members because sometimes, like I said, it doesn't translate. So we felt like that they were a really good organization. We tried to put something together years ago and nothing really materialized. And then with this opportunity to go full time with SS Greenlight, we got back with them. Actually, we started talking to them last summer and we put together this program with them. So they're going to be on my car for, I believe, 5 races. We have 5 Hire Heroes events through the season. We started at Daytona. They were on our car um, for Daytona, full wrap, and we had several military members that were getting out of the military and into jobs come out for the weekend. Had some employers come out, and it was a really great event. And basically, we're calling this the Race to Hire Heroes. And so we're basically having these job fair, job hiring events at the racetracks at these different events. And right now it's only 5 events. We definitely want to expand that, and as it becomes more and more successful, we want to make it bigger and do multiple events throughout the season, and then start doing military base visits with the show car as well. So we're just right now just trying to get more support, more donations for that program, and really ultimately just help the mission of hiring our heroes.
Do you know what 5 races? I know Daytona, the 4 races left on that they will be on your car.
Yeah, so they're definitely gonna be on my car at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coke 600 weekend. The rest are kind of up in the air. We're still working on kind of getting all of those details ironed out, but the next one that they'll be on, as far as the full wrap, will be Charlotte.
Well, that's a perfect weekend for them to be on the car for
Yep.
sure. For those, how can say a regular person like me, a civilian, is there a way that we could donate to Hire Heroes? Any way we could help them?
Yeah, I would just say go to the website hireheroesusa.com and they have a donation button. Make sure that if you do donate, tell them that NASCAR sent you, that Garrett sent you. And then any companies, they can reach out to me directly. Info@garrettsmithley.racing.com. Email me directly there, and we have several companies that have come on board for this venture. Actually, the Veterans Ranch, kind of a similar organization. They more are geared towards helping veterans deal with PTSD, and kind of rehabilitating them, having different events. So they're a really cool organization that we're working with, and they are helping the Hire Heroes USA program and our Race to Hire Heroes program. PCARX is also on board with us as one of the employers, and then we have several other smaller companies that are doing a lot. So yeah, come on board. It's a lot of fun. It kind of Our program is really unique in the sense that if a sponsor wants to jump on board, they can donate to the program, but they also can be on the race car as well, and a part of the program, pit passes and coming out and networking with the veterans that we're helping. So it really is a special program and special organization, and I'm super excited to see where it goes because I think the sky's the limit with it, and yeah, I'm excited for the future with them.
We're glad to see them in the sport. It's always great to see a new organization come into the sport, and when it has ties to military and veterans, and knowing the fans of NASCAR is just a perfect match of support between fans and company. Um, Doing some research, getting ready for this interview, I was reading some stories, and I noticed that both your grandfathers were veterans.
Yep. Both of my grandfathers served. One was in the Marines and one was in the Army. My mom's dad, Poppy, who passed away in 2021, he was in the Army. Actually, he didn't serve with him, but he was in the same division, I believe, as Elvis
Oh
when
wow!
Elvis Presley served. So that was pretty cool. Mom actually was almost born in Germany. They were stationed in Germany. He worked in the motor pool.
Right.
So she lived over there when she was very, very young. And then and then my dad's dad, Pap Pap, we call him. He was in the Marines and was a sharpshooter, I believe.
Wow. That's very interesting on both sides of it, being a sharpshooter and stationed with Elvis.
Yeah, and that's kind of where all of my passion for the military came from. It was, my parents, my dad, my mom, they didn't serve, but
Right.
my dad's a pilot, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the company he used to work for, World Airways, they did a lot of charter military movement, and they've always brought me and my brother up to be very passionate about the military and patriotic, um and during his time at World Airways, there was a flight that went out from Atlanta, where I grew up, um, going to the war zone during Desert Storm, on Christmas Day, and so, or Christmas Eve rather. And so we did. I was in the Boy Scouts, and our Boy Scout troop partnered with some local chapters of some different military organizations and the USO, and we went out to the airport and kind of had a big send off celebration just to thank them for what they were doing. We had live music, and Santa came out, and that's what really, like, that was our Christmas Eve tradition for years and years. So that's what really started my passion for working with different military organizations. And then throughout my career, I've been fortunate to partner with several. And this is for sure the most notable and the biggest that I've been able to do.
That's, that was amazing. And you mentioned your dad, and yeah, that was going to be my next thing to bring up. He's had an interesting career path. He was just over in California fighting the LA wildfires in a tanker airplane. How do you end up on that career path?
Yeah, so um, it's interesting. He actually went to college in Daytona. So that's kind of where his racing passion came from. He never raced himself,
Right.
but he graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, which is literally like you can see it from the track at
Hmm.
Daytona. So grew up going to the races down there, and then got a job with World Airways, as I said, flying DC-10s, and then MD-11s eventually, and then that company went out of business, and he was kind of looking around for different jobs and different opportunities, and he knew somebody that worked for a company called 10 Tanker that flew DC-10 fire bombers, and he got hired there. I think this is his 10th year as a DC-10 fire bomber pilot. So just his experience with the DC-10s and the MD-11s, it just worked out. He's a very good aviator, and you have to be to fly those planes. I mean, he flies those things 200 feet off the ground when he does the drops. And I mean, he flies those things like fighter jets. And for those that don't know, a DC-10, in an airliner configuration can seat up to 350 people. So it is a massive, massive plane. It carries 9,400 gallons of fire retardant that they work with the grounds crews that are fighting fires, and they basically line the fires to stop it in its tracks so the ground crews can move in and the helicopters can come in and dump directly on the fire. So yeah, he was out there basically when all that stuff happened. I think he mobilized within 2 or 3 days, and he was out there for 10 days straight, just hammering on the fires, and then went straight into training because he's also a flight instructor. So it's been a very very busy, hectic year for our family, and always thinking about my mom when all that stuff's going on because she's got to deal with dad flying the fires and then me being a race car driver.
Right.
It's quite stressful on her.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And like you said, it's a bit of hectic 2025 for sure, starting out for y'all. So, you being in NASCAR, your dad flying tanker planes, fighting wildfires, one grandfather in the Marines, sharpshooter, one in the Army. You included the men in y'all's family. Y'all go big or go home, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, it would seem like it, huh? I guess I have that in my blood and have the kind of adrenaline seeker gene in me. So yeah, it's been what's funny though is as much as I love racing and I love the adrenaline of it, I don't take risks outside of it. I've never ridden motorcycles. I always like to have four wheels and a cage is what I like to say when I go fast. And I tried snowboarding one time and it wasn't for me. And other than racing, the that's pretty much the only like crazy, adrenaline thing that I do. I don't I would go skydiving once. I wouldn't go bungee jumping. I don't like heights. And yeah, I like to stay on the ground and 200 miles an hour on a racetrack is fine for me.
Well, for me, sitting where I'm at, 200 miles an hour around a track, that's enough adrenaline for me as well. I couldn't imagine that. And so, with all that going on around you in your life, how did you end up going into NASCAR or being a stock car racer? How did that whole journey start?
Yeah, so as I said, Dad went to school at Daytona, and I grew up watching it when I was a kid. I remember watching the races at, as young as 3 years old, being obsessed with all of the crew chiefs and the drivers and the sponsors, and I just watched it constantly from that point forward. I went to my first race when I was 6 years old at Dover, and so I was born in Pennsylvania, lived in Northern Virginia for a little bit, and then really grew up in Georgia from sixth grade up until I graduated. And racing was just more mainstream in Georgia. So we started going to some local races and we found the Bandoleros and Legend cars in Georgia. And we went to a race and I test drove a car and I said, yeah, I want to try this out. So started at 15. We found a old beat up car that my mom had saved up some money and she had a savings account that she helped buy my first race car and that was it. We just started racing. I found a local golf cart shop to sponsor me, and they bought me my first Legend car because we really couldn't afford to do anything over Bandoleros. And then from there, just worked my way up. I found the Richard Petty driving experience. I did a program called the Petty Driver Search in 2010. And at 18 years old in 2011, I moved up to Charlotte and became a driving instructor for them. And the rest is kind of history. Just made the right connections, met Brian Kozlowski that helped me get my first ARCA test. Met Derek Cope, raced for him for a little bit, and then found Rick Ware actually put me in touch with Mike Mittler for my first truck start, and then through all that, just sold my own sponsors and found funding where I could, and then that led me to run for JD Motorsports in 2016 and ran for them for 4 years, and then went back to Rick and ran some Cup stuff, and here we are. It's 2025, and I'm 10 years into this thing. It's pretty crazy.
Sounds like quite the journey just to get to that point.
Yeah. Oh, and it's still. I mean, it is still. There's never been a year where I've been secure in what I'm doing,
Right.
just because it's so hard to raise the money. I have great partners with Trophy Tractor and Dozer Winch and True Brand and all of our partners that make all this stuff happen and have been with me for so long. Beth and Randy Knighton coming on board this year, but it's still a grind. Even today, I mean, we have 13 or 14 races that are open, that we're still trying to sell. So it is a constant grind. You're never comfortable. Um, and it's just doing it the old fashioned way, grassroots and grinding. It's definitely difficult, but it's gratifying when you can make it happen.
Gotcha. And that I was going to bring that up because not many drivers have the luxury of signing multi-year deals with their teams or with sponsors. So, what is that like trying to constantly be on the search, trying to get sponsors, get more races filled, and just trying to secure a full-time ride and keep your career going?
Yeah, it's a grind. I mean, it is just you have to not worry about the bad days and focus on the good days. It's such an up and down sport. I mean, even even this year, right? I mean, we qualified so well. We ran such a good qualifying lap at Daytona. We were poised to make a good finish. Had an issue there, electrical issue, took us out, and then Atlanta was good, and then obviously the Coda thing happened, and we're in a really bad point situation right now to where we're going to Martinsville this weekend, and we have to make the race. There's probably going to be over 38 cars on the entry list, pretty much guaranteed. So we know that we have to go there and put our best foot forward and not make mistakes and run a good qualifying lap. And that is something that we got to focus on. When we make, when we make these races, it's elation, and then you get in the race and then you gotta go do your job there. So it's so difficult. And then on the sponsorship side, you have to be okay with hearing the words no, or the word no, and you have to get 100 no's to get that one yes, and that's just what it takes. Just my motto. It's been a motto that's been on my dash every single race car that I drove, and it's patience, never give up, and that's what you have to do. That's what you have to live by, especially when you do it the way that I'm doing it. But when it's all said and done, it's all worth it going racing on Saturdays and seeing all the support, all the family support, all the fan support. That's what keeps us going, and our sponsors, and it's really humbling when you think about it, when you kind of take a helicopter view of everything and you say, wow, this is pretty cool.
Right. And like I said, this Xfinity Series field, I mean, it is stacked. It's very treacherous this year. I mean, you saw Parker Retzloff, he just DNQ'd from a race driving the JD Motorsports car. So it's definitely tough being out there, I'm sure. Kind of going off to the side here of we were talking about you growing up and getting into NASCAR. So who was your favorite driver growing up and watching?
Oh, Dale Jarrett,
Dale,
easy.
Dale Jarrett.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did he become that favorite driver for you?
Well, we talked about being patriotic. In whatever year it was, he was driving the number 88 quality care red, white, and blue car, and I said, "That's my driver." I call it the American flag car, and I picked him. And I was probably 3 or 4 years old when I picked him to be my driver. But when I did pick him, and it ended up, of course, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know his background or anything like that, but it ended up being one of the most well respected guys in the garage, a champion, a multi-time Daytona 500 champion, and somebody to really look up to. And I'm fortunate that I picked him, and that he became my driver. I loved when he transitioned over into the broadcasting stuff. That's kind of something that I've wanted to do, that I have an
Hmm.
interest in. I love that aspect of it. So yeah, he was always my driver. I'm fortunate that I've talked to him before. He's been on the broadcast when I've raced before, and it was a pretty cool full circle moment when I met him, for sure.
I can imagine. And honestly, when I was getting ready to ask that question of how he became your favorite driver, for some reason I thought he's going to say the red, white, and blue scheme. That's got to,
Yeah,
because for me, mine was Bill Elliott because he drove the McDonald's car.
there you go.
Your reason's a little bit better than mine, but so when you get up into NASCAR and you're getting ready to make your first truck start and you're in the Xfinity Series, how surreal was it to show up in a fire suit and you're surrounded by all these guys you've grown up watching and you're getting ready to go compete with them?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I've had several of those moments. The first truck started at Atlanta. Obviously, that's home track for me. It's where I grew up racing. We'd gone through that tunnel several times, and in fact, my very first race was in 2007, and we parked where the trucks park when there's three series there in Atlanta. And so where the truck series were parked was exactly where we parked in running Bandolera's my very first race. So that was pretty surreal. You talked about Bill Elliott being your favorite driver.
Yeah.
Getting to race with him at Road America a few years ago and running door side by side, door to door with him. He was all. I mean, I grew up racing with Chase
Right.
Elliott. We raced Bandoleras and Legend cars together. He was always a little bit ahead of me. He was a little bit younger, but always ahead of me. Just he got a little bit a little bit faster start than I did.
Yeah, I can understand.
Understandably speaking, but we always kind of raced together. I mean, I raced with him in the Bandoleras. I raced with him. I don't know if I ever raced actually with him in Legend cars, but raced with him in ARCA, raced with him in trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. So that was kind of crazy to do that. And then obviously, starting a Cup race. I made my first Cup start back in 2018, and just sitting in the driver's meeting and looking around. Jimmy Johnson, there's Kyle Busch, there's Brett Keselowski, there's Denny Hamlin, there's all these guys that I grew up racing on, watching on TV, and now I'm gonna race with them door to door. And it was like I had this like imposter syndrome moment where it's like, what am I doing here? Like this is insane. And yeah, so I've been fortunate and speaking on the cup stuff, getting I think I have 76 something cup starts now. So that's crazy. It's wild, but again, it's a testament to patience, never give up, and keeping at it and making the right connections and doing all the right things and trying to gain the respect from the people in the industry. And it's certainly not easy, but at the same time, I told a lot of people that this is what I wanted to do at a very young age, and I, with a lot of help, made that happen. And like I said, it's just a testament to if you really put your dedication and time and heart into something, then you can make it happen.
And you definitely have them with plenty more still to come, I'm sure, from your career. So just a couple more questions. When it comes to hobbies, what drivers like to do away from the track? Some like to go hunting, go fishing, others go racing and other series, and then some drivers they'll log on iRacing or go on and play video games. What is it that you like to do as your time away from the track as kind of a escape?
Yeah, probably my favorite thing is golf. I really love going to the golf course, and there's a lot of similarities between golfing and racing. It's a very mental sport. It's something that you got to focus on, and you got to do it a lot to be good at it. And it puts you in the right mindset when you go racing. So a lot of the same things I take from golf, I take over to racing and vice versa. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy being outdoors. I enjoy going out, going with friends, and if it's not too close to a race weekend, then having a couple beers out on the course is always good. Um, I do some iRacing. I started Twitch streaming during COVID and started iRacing and Twitch streaming some video games. So I enjoy streaming iRacing when I can. I haven't really had much chance. I left for Coda and didn't come back until last week. So
Right.
it's been a pretty crazy month. So I hadn't had much of a chance to do any of that stuff, but yeah, I really enjoy those two things. I love aviation, so anytime there's a plane in the sky, I'm pretty much looking up and seeing what it is. I've got my flight radar 24, and I nerd out and see where that plane's coming from or where it's going, or if there's a big plane on there, I'm like, oh, let's see what that is. Um, so I like going to air shows when I get the chance. At some point, I probably will get my pilot's license, probably long after I've retired from racing because I don't have the time to do it right now. And when I do something, I want to put my all into it. So I know that I couldn't put all the effort into it that I want, but I do want my pilot's license at some point. Um, and that's pretty much about it. I really enjoy music. I play a little bit of piano and I like going to karaoke bars and doing some of that stuff. I grew up uh singing and dancing and acting in theater and things like that. So I've got a little bit different background than most guys that are out on the racetrack, but I use those skills every day and doing interviews like these and being
Right.
on TV and being comfortable in front of groups. It really being on stage really gave me the confidence to become a race car driver because you have to have the confidence to go do that and to put yourself out there, put yourself on social media, and that helped me quite a lot because naturally I'm more of a shy person. I'm more of an introvert, which is I guess kind of hard to believe for some folks, but I definitely had to learn those type of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could have fooled me being an introvert. I mean, and I'm sure, yeah, getting out on stage, doing the drama and all that, that helps because you do have to put yourself out there for everyone to see. So you're still active on Twitch? People can find you on there, and
Yeah, just at Garrett Smithley. In fact, all of my well, I guess Twitch would be twitch.tv/Garrett Smithley. All the rest of my social media is just at Garrett Smithley. And I try to post as much as I can. I really haven't had much time too. I have so much content. I really need somebody to post for me just because I don't have time anymore. I'm in the middle of, and hopefully we can announce some things moving forward. But I'm in the middle of shooting a TV show right now behind the scenes of the Xfinity series and called Over the Wall, and I'm really hoping that that we can have some big announcements for that. We've been working on that since last year. Actually, I've been working on that for a better part of 3 years now with our producer Ian Jones. But we've been working really hard on that, and and we're getting really close to having some big announcements. So stay tuned for that. That's taken up a lot of time, and through that, there's been a few other TV shows that I'm kind of doing some co-hosting things on. So naturally, after racing, I have said that I wanted to go into entertainment, TV, broadcasting, something like that. So it's kind of put myself in that direction. I'd like to race hopefully for the next 7 to 10 years if I can continue having teams that'll have me, having sponsors, having performance. That's the goal for me, and then past that, just hopefully some entertainment stuff and hopefully some racing stuff. And um, you know, we race car drivers think we can race forever, but eventually you can't. So it catches up with all of us.
It's all got to come to an end eventually. Well, I know a lot of people will be excited to see Over the Wall, like you were just talking about. Speaking for myself, I love the behind the scenes shows. I can't get enough of them when it comes to NASCAR. Last thing I want to ask you, and it's something recently you posted on X last week. Somebody shared a video of the Xfinity and Cup Series cars practicing at the same time at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and you had an interesting idea for a little change to the All Star race. Could you tell us a little bit about how you would like to change that?
Yeah, I for years and years and years, it may have been before I even started racing in NASCAR, but I had this idea that the All-Star race should be a multi-class race with the Cup cars, the Xfinity cars, and the trucks, all of the winners and the champions in each individual series racing all at the same time on the track. I think it would be cool to see it at a place like Charlotte at a mile and a half track, but I think it also would be really cool to see it on a road course, so like the Roval, the Daytona road course, something like that, maybe like a crossover thing. You see these multi-class races like the Rolex 24 and Sebring and Le Mans and all of these different multi-class races, and it's so exciting. And there's so many different stories, and I just think that would be so cool to see a maybe not so much an endurance race, but a multi-class NASCAR race with all three series. I just think that would be so entertaining. Have the different skill levels, have the different cars, the different speeds, and the different strategies. I think it would be a really entertaining thing. Even if it's not the All Star race, maybe that could be something for the Clash, and that gets everybody involved. And have an open All Star where you can come and you can show up, or you don't have to, but everybody has a chance to qualify into this thing. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I think so too. I think that would breathe some new life, especially in the All Star race, and especially if you get it back into Charlotte, because all the week long events they have, all the fan that can go to the race shops and get a pit crew challenge. And I was going to ask, would you do it on the oval or the roval? Because I could see either one working.
Yeah, I mean, my first thing, it's just, I mean, we're primarily an oval series, so
Right.
I think it would be cool to see it back at Charlotte on at Charlotte Motor Speedway on the oval. I think that'd be really cool, and I think there'd be some strategy behind it too.
Oh, for sure. And then would it be like a mileage event, like you have this many miles and the race is over? Would you do like a 3 or 4 hour timed event? There's just a lot of different ways you could go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think multi-class racing. I think timed event is probably what it would be. However, I could see a situation where it'd be a little bit of an endurance. Maybe it's just like a 2 hour event that is just constant. You do maybe two stage breaks in the 2 hour event. Get everybody racked up and off to the races. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you could play it. There's people that are much smarter than me that can figure that out. But I think it'd be cool. I mean, honestly, it'd be cool place like North Wilkesboro. I mean, where the All-Star race currently is. I think any of those could work. Logistically speaking, it'd be difficult at North Wilkesboro just for the space.
Right.
But I mean, I definitely think it could be cool. The other idea, not to change subject, but I've always thought because I really like F1, and on a lot of their F1 weekends they have the historic cars. A lot of
Mhm.
their current drivers come out and drive the historic cars. I think it would be so cool to have a historic NASCAR race. They kind of did it a little bit with this new road course series that they have. I don't know a whole lot about it, but they actually ran it at the Roval this
Right.
past weekend or this past year. With they had the Gen 4 cars, they had some COT cars out there. They had a truck. I think Joe Nemechek and John Hunter ran, and Cam Murphy ran. I think it would be so cool that maybe not every weekend, but some of these weekends, Darlington, Charlotte, probably not Daytona. It wouldn't really work at Daytona, but the Roval weekend, maybe some of these road courses having a historic NASCAR race where they have some of these old cars that go out and compete and race. I think that'd be super cool.
That would be cool to see. And if NASCAR does make any changes with the All Star race, Garrett Smithley, he had the idea first, to give him credit,
That's all
and
right.
and I'll take the second. Um, well, Garrett, I appreciate you taking the time to come on, join me, answer some questions. Hopefully, it didn't make it too painful for you being my first guest, but I'm
Nope.
really appreciative of you coming on.
No, it was great. I really enjoyed it. It was a great conversation, and yeah, looking forward to the season and getting back at it.
Deal. Well, hey, want to wish you the best of luck on the rest of your season, and maybe down the road we can get you back on here.
Sounds great.
All right, appreciate it.